I was waiting for a perfect opportunity to put this t-shirt on for the first time. And along came the Netflix Resident Evil series. What a coincidence. Hi, my name's Drew and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. Yes, we're talking once again about a Netflix series, and I usually don't, in my videos, I don't choose things that I just want to complain about. I don't usually choose things that I dislike, etc. But in this case, I really need to do that because not only to show that Netflix doesn't do everything well. There are enough things that they really mess up. And as a really big fan of the series, I just had to say something about it. I really love the game series, from the most recent entries. Probably 7 might even be my overall favourite. That is something that I feel they should just take and make a series or a film out of, because that would be really cool. And it is kind of detached from the classical Resident Evil story. But also like number 8, or the remakes of 2 and 3. 3 was okay, I mean it was a bit short and stuff, but 2 I particularly liked. I mean you can even see here I've got the figure of Leon from the special edition. Here we've got the Tyrant from the very first one, so I am definitely a fan of the game series. Obviously in film, etc., it's all a bit wonky. I don't know what Capcom is up to. I mean, they want their IP Resident Evil to be treated well, but for some reason, they're just letting people just do whatever the hell they want with it. Now, I've seen not all of them, but I've seen the Resident Evil film series. I think I just haven't seen the final one. But honestly, I can't remember. I mean, they kind of just, they're just a big ball of goop in my brain because they're all just so interchangeable and quite pointless, most of them. I really enjoyed the first one. It was quite cool as a teenager, being in the cinema, seeing Resident Evil on the screen for the first time. Also because all the new metal choices were right down my alley, The second one was still kind of okay because you could recognise a few elements from the games, the Nemesis as well, of course. But from 3 onwards, they just turn into mush, in my opinion. They're just bad. I haven't seen Welcome to Raccoon City. I wanted to go and see it, didn't quite find the time, and also by that point I saw the reviews coming in from people who love the franchise, the game franchise, and are passionate about it. And what I heard was enough. I mean, I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to mash up games 1 and 2 into one film, with so many characters. Just a bad idea overall. But even when it comes to Capcom themselves, their animated films and the newest series on Netflix, Infinite Darkness, they're just okay at best. While we do have the elements that we like from the games there, I don't know, they just can't seem to make it work like they do in the games. And then you've got this new installment, Resident Evil on Netflix. A full series, 8 episodes, and I don't know, it just pains me, it really does. I went into it with I was being objective. I thought, let's give it a go, give it a try, benefit of the doubt, all these things, but unfortunately, no, still a disappointment. Just to briefly talk about the plot, this is, and I don't get, they seem to have taken, it just seems to be a better version of the film series world that they created. And what I really dislike, when you look at the games, none of them actually deal with a post-apocalyptic world. It's always small incidents that happen in a certain region of the world, and it's all very self-contained and gets cleaned up afterwards, and generally speaking, the life of planet Earth can go on. But here we're in this post-apocalyptic world, where everything's gone to shit, and that's what we're dealing with. And I don't know why, because I don't know, it immediately to me it just makes the thing a lot more boring. This isn't The Walking Dead, it's Resident Evil. It's all about we're currently trying to prevent, these events from happening while these big companies are trying to weaponize these monsters and viruses and all these things. And that's what we're trying to prevent, and this just was like, no, we're in the post-apocalypse. Okay. So the series actually switches between 2 timelines. We've got the post-apocalyptic one, and then we see how the outbreak happened, I suppose, just before everything went to pot, which is set round about now. I mean, they talk about COVID and all these things, so it's set in 2023 or 24, something like that. And we keep switching between these 2 timelines. That actually is the first big mistake they make. While it's okay to give us some backstory and some flashbacks, that's fine. I felt that they could have left that to the first 2 episodes or so, but no, they keep going through all 8 episodes, so we're constantly switching back and forth between the 2 timelines, to just really draw out the whole thing. To me, it felt like they needed the backstory because, wow, what a surprise, the post-apocalyptic thing just didn't have so much there, there wasn't so much to tell in terms of story, so that's why they needed to start, so to me, the pre-outbreak stuff was just a lot more interesting in that sense. Also because just what they do to the zombies is horrible. They call them zeros, which is one of the worst offences I've ever seen. Why would you call them zeros? Just call them bloody zombies. That's what they do in the games as well. They call them zombies, and that's fine. You don't need to reinvent the term. Just use it. It's fine. But even then, the characters, it isn't enough to really make the whole thing work. So, I mean, in terms of plot, that's really more or less it. We are focused in the post-apocalyptic stuff. We are focused on Jade Wesker, Wesker, if you know Resident Evil, obviously that's an important name. She's the daughter of Albert Wesker. We're focused on her. Just as a wee side note, she's played by Ella Balinska, and I thought she was fine. I really liked what she did. Obviously it's just a bad script and stuff, but I really liked her in that role. I thought she did well. I just wish they could have given her something more. But I will say at the same time, her character makes some of the worst choices I've ever seen. She gets people killed, really recklessly because she's completely selfish and all that. Like I say, actress fine, the character not good. And I've just mentioned Albert Wesker. He appears here as well. He is played by Lance Reddick, and he is definitely the standout person, the standout actor in the whole thing. I mean, he's great, of course. And you get people saying, yeah, but we don't want a black Wesker. And while I get that, because when you look at Wesker in the games, I mean, he is pretty as close to being a Nazi as you could be, with eugenics and survival of the fittest and all these things. He's got all these sort of Nazi scientist ideologies, I'll call them. I still, I thought, fine, let's just go with it and see what happens. But he's a very, very different version of Wesker, which again just dilutes the whole thing a bit, because you're like, why, I want to see the original version of Wesker just because it's a more interesting character. I don't want to see just scientist Wesker. And sorry, I should have mentioned before, but yes, this review will be full of spoilers because I honestly don't care. And I'm sorry if you don't want to be spoiled. I usually, try and not spoil, but in this case, it's just pointless because it's a bad show, and I really want to I really don't want you to watch it, okay? Particularly if you're a fan of the show. So we get to see some glimpses of it, but we never see the actual stuff. There's one scene they put in, I think it's the penultimate episode, episode 7. We see him as Wesker, as the one that we know, and it just looks ridiculous, because he's suddenly got hair and he's got this leather coat and gloves, and it all looks like it's too big. It looks like a bad cosplay or something like that. And I'm like, even if you give us the actual Wesker in the show, just outfit wise, just do something that works with Lance Reddick. Don't force this in. And he also, if you've played the 5th one, he's got like superhuman abilities, can move fast, nearly faster than you can blink an eye. And they put that in there, and I thought, for people who don't know the games, this will be really confusing, because he just does it for 2 seconds and then you never see it appear again. No one comments on it, nothing. So, there's a lot of fan service thrown in here, and it just doesn't work. Like, you've got, famous lines from the game that certain characters say, they're just given to random people, and it just makes you angry, because you're like, no, please give me the actual characters saying these lines, because that's what we want, that's what we deserve. But there are a lot of these things. And the zombies themselves, I'm not a fan of their look, because they don't really look undead. It's more like a plague, where they've got pustules, and boils and all these kind of things. They run, which is obviously something that we don't need, because I know it may seem cliche in that, but that is what Resident Evil fans want. Just give us a big mansion. You've got a small group of even elite police officers. They're stuck in this mansion. They don't know what's going on. They don't know, the place itself. You've got narrow corridors. They don't know what's hiding around the corner, and just slow zombies, because in a confined space, a thing that you can fire 15 times at, it doesn't drop down, is very scary. It doesn't need to be fast to be scary. You know, it really doesn't not need to be fast to be scary, and that's something that they really don't understand. And they're trying to reinvent it. And the worst moment for me in the whole series was when you realise that they're not, you know, because for the majority I was like, okay, they're trying to just do their own timeline and things, and we've got some characters that we recognise or even named the same, but you know, it's their own thing. Until some way half through, you know, here they say that all those events that we know from the games, they all actually happened here as well, and this is trying to be a continuation of the story, which is just so wrong. You know, by all means, make an alternate timeline, you know, just make it its own thing. I mean, you know, you've got the characters that we kind of know, but you know, they're different here, etc. Just do that, but don't try and pretend that the original stuff, you know, is actually also existing in this universe and happened, and don't just mention them in a throwaway line, because we know that those things are just far more interesting than what you're presenting to us on the screen right now. You know, so many things to complain about. The action is fine. I mean, it is obviously an action series as well. It's okay combined with the CGI. It's fine. It's workable. I think it's kind of okay. Yeah, it is okay. The only thing that I've got a bit of a complaint about is when we do have fight scenes. They just seem to be a bit choppy in terms of editing and choreography. There's one I'm thinking about in particular with Lance Reddick, where we get to see some of the Wesker we know, and it's just got these really incredibly edited shots that don't quite work so well. Another thing that people complain about, which I do agree with, is the overabundance of teeny drama. So when we have the flashback stuff, we've got these two girls and they're talking to their dad in such a disrespectful way, you know, they're swearing at him, all these things. It just seems like a completely unrealistic scenario, you know, because they've got no reason to be so awful and mean to him, and it seems so over the top. One thing in combination with that is the music. They use this also very sort of teeny dramatic pop music, I'll call it. Female singers trying to emphasize, you know, sad moments or emotional moments. I thought it was fine. It fit the package, you know. It was fine for what it was. But yes, I mean, it just doesn't fit with a Resident Evil series. It really doesn't, you know. Take this whole thing, give it a different name, you know, just don't make it be Resident Evil. It would have been fine, but no, they wanted to, you know, attach the brand name to it, and that, you know, it just doesn't work well together. If they'd just given it a different name and tried to, you know, just change some things to keep it separate, I think it would have done a lot better, to be perfectly honest. You know, the showrunner, who also worked on Supernatural, said, oh, allegedly, I mean, I saw this comment somewhere, allegedly said that he could picture this even going longer than Supernatural. We could have 16 seasons. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't even picture a second one, so never mind 16. God knows how that would go, you know. Yeah. So many different elements that just do not work here. It's very, very unfortunate. Now, I don't usually make recommendations like this because I like to, you know, emphasize positive things. But here, for one of the few times I do this, I am actually recommending that you do not watch something, in this case Resident Evil on Netflix. And there's no point, you know, it will really confuse either what you know and love of Resident Evil, or if you've never seen it before, you know, this would be a horrible introduction. So whether you are a fan of the series, you know, game series or not, don't start with this, you know, don't do that. Don't do it to yourself, really don't. If you want a recommendation from me from the games, you should start with 1, 2 and 3, either original or remake, fine either way. And number 7. I really, really like number 7, what it did. I played it in VR, one of the scariest experiences of my entire life. That'll be all from me today. I'll thank you for watching. I'm not going to talk anymore because I really am emotionally exhausted when it comes to this show. I could go on for hours probably. There's so many things to complain about and nitpick. Just know overall it's bad. Now, if you enjoyed this review, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below about anything you want to say about this show, or Resident Evil as a whole, the films, the game series, which is something I particularly like talking about. You know, just any of that down below. I'll thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video on Flying Wiener. Take care. Bye.